So last class we had completed verse number 22. So we will start by reciting the verse number 22 today again. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani gruhnati naroparani tatha sarirani vihaya jirnam yanyani samyati navani dehi. So we had completed this verse in the last class, which was, as a person gives up old clothes and takes up new clothes, similarly the bodies also are changed. So it's a very profound and simple way of looking at things, but very easy to say. Just like changing our clothes, the body also changes. Sounds very logical, sounds very easy, but even clothes, sometimes we get so attached. A favorite dress, we don't want to give it up. We've been wearing it for some time, but still any new occasion comes, you always look for that particular dress because we are so fond of it. So you can imagine a dress which has been there for maybe a few months or maybe sometimes even a few years. I think the ladies' saris continue for years. Their marriage, wedding sari is there till the end of their life, and it is passed on to the next generation also. This was how the earlier culture was. So you can imagine for a dress, the attachment that we have. So the body which has been always part of us, so it is not surprising that we will be attached to this body. So the attachment to the body is very natural, but the understanding that this body has got a definite expiry date, we know it is inevitable. So if we accept the fact that the body is going to fall, we are going to get a new body. There is no doubt about it. So once we understand this concept, the more we try and understand, the more we understand this aspect, it becomes easier for us to handle life. But then that is the whole problem. It's not easy to accept this. To get away from this fondness or the attraction towards the body, the understanding should be so deep about the Atma. So we have to assimilate that knowledge. So it's only by understanding the temporary nature of the body and the permanent nature of the Atma, and then claiming that I am the Atma, I am not the body, takes a lot of preparation. So this is what we had seen in the last class. Now let us go on to the verse number 23. Nainam chindanti sat shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha nachainam kledyayantyappo nasoshayati marutaha. This is again a very often quoted verse. Must have seen this verse being quoted in many places. So Krishna says, weapons cannot kill this Atma. The Atma cannot be killed with weapons, nor can fire burn it. nor can water wet it or drown it, nor can wind dry it. So he is talking about the four elements. The body can be destroyed by any of these four elements. The Atma, he says, cannot be destroyed by any of these four elements. So the weapons, he says, the Atma cannot be cut or destroyed by any kind of weapon. So weapons are generally made out of earth element because all the metals are found in the earth. So any kind of weapon you produce out of earth, it cannot destroy the Atma. Similarly, the body can be cut. Any of these weapons can kill the body, whether it's a sword or a knife, or nowadays we have guns and all kinds of artillery which can kill the body, but none of these can kill the Atma. Similarly, water cannot wet or drown the Atma. It has no effect on the Atma. But the water can drown the body. The body can be killed by drowning. Fire can burn the body. In fact, once the body falls, it is offered to fire only. So the fire can destroy the body, but when the body is destroyed, nothing happens to the Atma. And the wind cannot dry. The wind cannot dry the Atma. But the wind can dry up the body, it can dehydrate it or blow the body away with its force. So all these are possible. All these four elements can destroy the body, but they have no effect on the Atma. The Atma cannot be destroyed by any of these elements. So this is again Krishna is trying to explain the nature of the Atma in minute detail, because each one may have their own doubts. Can the knife kill the Atma? Or you have the latest weapons now, can they kill the Atma? You have the guns, or you have the heavy missiles nowadays. So even in those days they had Brahmastra. So Arjuna was having Brahmastra. So even if you had used that on either Drona or Bhishma, he could have killed their body, but the Atma would not have been in any way dented. So that's why Krishna is trying to explain in minutest detail, so that there is no doubt, oh, can this do the kill the Atma, or can that kill the Atma? So he leaves no room for doubt about the nature of the Atma. So it is very clear that the Atma cannot be destroyed by any means. So this is what this particular verse conveys. Again, he is going to elaborate further on this. He will continue in the same tone in the next verse, the first line, and then he will again explain further. So let us go to the verse number 24. Achedyo yam adahyo yam akledyo sosya evacha nitya sarvagatasthanur achaloyam sanatanaha. So the self cannot be, again he emphasizes the same meaning what he had conveyed in the last verse. cannot be slain, burnt, drowned or dried. So all the four aspects which he had told in the last verse, that the Atma cannot be destroyed by any of the four elements, he again re-emphasizes that in the first line. Again he says, the Atma is changeless, it is all pervading, it is stable, immovable and eternal. So these are again, already we have seen in previous verses also, the various aspects or the nature of Atma he has explained. In each verse he had explained one particular aspect. Now he is again summing up, he is again trying to explain or remind us about the different aspects of the Atma. So he says, Atma is eternal. That means it is immortal. So everybody seeks immortality. So all of us are all seeking immortality, but we also know very well that this body cannot last, because we have not seen anybody. Otherwise we would have been looking at our great grandfather also moving around with us. So we have seen bodies, our forefathers come and go. So the fact is, we cannot be immortal, but we always seek immortality. In fact, there are only some few people who are supposed to be immortal, like Hanuman, Ashwathama. Some of these people are supposed to be existing even today. In fact, they said during the Ramar temple inauguration, in fact, that sculptor Arun Yogiraj, he said when he was sculpting, a monkey used to come and sit there and watch. And one day he had just covered that, he had not finished the statue, he had just covered it. The monkey came and started shaking that cover because it wanted to see. So you don't know, Hanuman might have come in some form to see. In fact, the one of the lawyers who fought for the Ram Janmabhoomi case, Parashuran. So he said, after the judgment was passed, that night in Delhi on his terrace, suddenly there appeared a horde of monkeys. He had never seen any monkeys in that neighborhood, but that evening, or even slightly later in the evening, there was a horde of monkeys there. They just came and then they went away. So Hanuman is regarded as a Chiranjeevi. So there are some Chiranjeevis, but we may not know them. Even if we see them, we will not know, because Hanuman, in what form he comes in front of us, we will not know. But all of us want to be Chiranjeevis, knowing very well that we cannot be. But when everybody wants something, it must be something which is natural. It must be. So immortality may be something which is natural to us. That's why all of us are craving for that. You know, even after our death, in terms of leaving the body, people want to continue to be known. So some children, grandchildren are named after the grandparents, so that that name continues. We create some trusts, we donate things, we construct dharamshalas in name of somebody, so that even after 100 years, that person will be, at least his name will be there. Whether people know who is he or not, we don't know. For example, now we have in every, I think, city of India, there is one Mahatma Gandhi Road. But generally it is compressed to be known as MG Road. After some time, we will not know what is MG. Future generations will not know what is MG. So we think, okay, he has become immortal. But MG, what is MG? Nobody will even bother to find out as days go by. So that kind of immortality doesn't last. Even if it lasts for a few 100 years, people are not going to remember our face. So we think we are gaining immortality by doing all these things. So it is natural. It is natural because it is something we actually are immortal. That is why we seek that immortality. If we know that once this body goes, we are not going to exist at all, everybody knows that, then there is no point in seeking immortality. So something is natural, like happiness. If you are happy in the morning, good. Even in the afternoon, if you are happy, good. By evening also you are happy. You don't think and say, why am I so happy? Is it good to be happy all the time? But the moment you feel unhappy, do you feel, oh, why should I be unhappy? Because unhappiness is not natural. What is natural is what we are comfortable with. So even the body rejects what is not natural. There is something, a particle goes into the eye, the eyes start watering, trying to throw out. You eat something which doesn't agree with you, the body throws it out. So any external thing which comes, which is not natural, is thrown out. So similarly, this mortality thing in the mind is not natural, because we are immortal, but we don't understand it at this moment, because our understanding is limited to the body. So since the body is mortal, we assume we are mortal. So we have to understand that immortality is your very nature. You don't need to seek immortality. You only need to seek the knowledge, or you understand your immortality through study. Because once you understand yourself, you will understand that you are that very immortal being which you are searching for. Like people look for their specs all around and they find it is on top of the head. I think some of us might have gone through similar experiences. We may be having something in our pocket and we will be looking all around the house. Finally, we'll discover it's in the pocket. So it's something with us, we are looking outside. So immortality is to be gained by knowledge. It is already available. There's nothing to be taken from outside. It is just realizing, oh, I am immortal, that's all. So that is the entire quest, to discover that the very thing that I am looking for is me. Similarly, Atma is all pervading. It is not bound by anything. So everything that we see is Atma. It is not that Atma is in there in everything. Everything is in Atma. So there's a difference. We say Atma is in this person, Atma is in that person, Atma is in that thing, Atma is in this thing. Everything is in Atma. So that is why everything is only Atma. So that again is something which the more we understand Atma, we will be able to accept. It is changeless. Atma is changeless. The body changes. The body, when it is born, it is very small. It keeps growing. After some time, it grows sideways. After it stops growing lengthwise, it starts growing widthwise. Then you get some disease, it starts shrinking. So constantly the body is changing. But with the change of the body, there is no effect on the Atma. The Atma continues to be the you who is in this body doesn't change. Whether the body shrinks, bloats, falls, it has no effect. So the Atma doesn't change with the change in the body. So that is again very emphatically told by Krishna. Atma is also immovable. It doesn't travel from one place to another, because when everything is only Atma, where can it travel? So then we can say, okay, I am moving from here to there, I am always traveling. Yes, the body is traveling, but the you in the body doesn't travel, because there is nowhere to travel, because everything is only you. Only when you have to go from X to Y, then you need to travel. But there is only one thing everywhere. So where do you travel? So it is immovable, because there is nothing different. Only if there are two entities, you move from one to another. There is only one entity, and that is you. So you are immovable. That is the nature of the Atma. When we say nature of the Atma, that is our nature, the nature of the self. And it is also eternal. Atma is eternal, Sanatana. So Sanatana, in fact, Hinduism as it is called now, is only called as Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana means eternal, one which always existed, because it is something natural. Two aspects of Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma are Dharma and Brahman. Dharma is the basic values which never change in any part of time. Whether it was Satya Yuga, whether it was Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga or Kali Yuga, killing is still a sin. Killing, ahimsa, is one of the dharma in any yuga. So you cannot say it was acceptable in that yuga, now it is not acceptable. So the basic value doesn't change. Truth, speaking the truth, whether it was in Rama's time or Krishna's time or present time, truth has been truth, always truth. There cannot be different kind of truth in those days and now. So dharma is eternal. That is why it is applicable to every being in the world. Unfortunately, a lot of other religions have come up, and they have come up with their own philosophies which have created a confusion in people's mind. You don't need religion to understand that you should not hurt somebody, you should not steal from somebody. Do you need any lessons to understand this? This is part of our system. You are born with that knowledge. So when you are born with that knowledge, means that is something intrinsic. So dharma is always there, and Bhagavad Gita is expressing this dharma only. That is why, unlike some other texts, like you have Old Testament and New Testament, and I'm not criticizing any religion, I'm just giving an example. We don't have old Bhagavad Gita and new Bhagavad Gita version 1, Bhagavad Gita version 2. What Krishna said in that yuga, same text is there even now. There is not a single, you cannot change. If Bhagavad Gita can be changed, it is not worth reading Bhagavad Gita. Because it is the eternal truth. If you can change the truth, then there is nothing to understand. People might have changed their versions of Bhagavad Gita. People might have commented on Bhagavad Gita in a particular time, then later with more understanding they might have corrected their comments. Like each time now, as I study, I get a little more understanding of Bhagavad Gita. So maybe next time I study, so it is only improving our understanding. It is not that Bhagavad Gita is saying something different. It is saying the same thing. Krishna has been saying the same thing. But by studying Bhagavad Gita again and again, we are only improving our understanding of the Bhagavad Gita. So, if I have not understood Bhagavad Gita, it is not because there is something wrong with Bhagavad Gita, it is something wrong with my understanding. So, that is the first thing. Otherwise, we would have had Gita 10, Gita 12, each version, like you have different operating systems, Windows 1, Windows 2, or new versions of the iPhone coming up. So all these things are not applicable to Bhagavad Gita. Even our college subjects, what we learnt when we were in college, now a lot of things might have changed, because every day something new is being discovered. So the whole, of course, some basic things will remain the same, but newer technologies come, newer things come, and things change. Especially in the last maybe couple of decades, things have started changing very fast. So there are lot of changes happening, but Dharma never changes. So that is why it is Sanatana. And Brahman is the self. So that is why the Vedas are divided into two sections, the Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda. The Karma Kanda is about Dharma, how to maintain Dharma. Once you do that, then you understand the self, that becomes Mukti. But without understanding Dharma, you cannot attain knowledge. Just for the sake of study, if we study the Bhagavad Gita without understanding the Dharma, that Bhagavad Gita will not be useful to us. Academically, we may gain some knowledge, but as a person, that is why you have to go through Karma Kanda. So all our religious beliefs, all the religious practices are meant to make our understanding better, to prepare our mind. Because all those religious practices are meant to prepare the mind. Only when the mind is prepared, this knowledge will be sustained in the mind. Otherwise, we may keep studying, but after 2 days, we will be back where we started. So, Dharma and Brahman, they are eternal. So that is why Atma is eternal. That is why Hindu Dharma is originally known as Sanatana Dharma, because it is perennial. There is never a time when it was not there. There is never going to be a time when it will cease to exist. So this is a continuous process. So understanding the Atma, the nature of the Atma, once you have that, you can just relax and say, okay, I am there always. So what is there for me to worry? I don't have to be scared about anything. So that is the message given by Krishna in this particular verse. We'll move on to the next verse. Verse number 25. Avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitumarhasi. He says this self is unmanifest. It is not something which can be perceived by thought. It is not subject to change. Therefore, knowing all this, there is no need for you to grieve. That is what Krishna tells Arjuna. Because it is avyaktaha. He says it is, this self is avyaktaha. That means it is not perceivable. Like we have the 5 organs of perception. Each of them has a unique area. What you see with the eyes, the knowledge that you gain with the eyes, you cannot verify it with your ears. The role of the eyes is to see forms. The role of the ears is to identify sounds. Each organ has got those 5 senses are unique. Each sense, whatever, but none of these senses can identify the Atma. So then one can say, then if I can never identify the Atma through any means, then how do I understand the Atma? So that is what Bhagavad Gita is for. So this is the 6th sense. Our Vedas we accept as the 6th sense to understand the Atma. It cannot be verified by any other means. So all the other 5 senses, they have their own limitations in their area. They cannot, so each sense is unique. Similarly, the Atma cannot be understood by any, it cannot be perceived by any of these senses. So you need the 6th sense, the Vedas, to, it is not even conceivable. You cannot think of an Atma. It doesn't have a form. It is in, when everything is Atma, can it have a form? If it has a form, then it cannot be Atma. So it is inconceivable. You cannot imagine, because even the universe itself we are not able to imagine. Our understanding is very limited. Even within this earth itself we cannot imagine how vast. But earth is a very small part of this universe. If you go to understand the Milky Way, you cannot even imagine the size, leave alone think of it. So, and Atma is something which contains all this. We have some understanding of this other planets. We have an understanding of the Milky Way through scientific understanding. But that itself is something which is so huge, we cannot conceive. So you can imagine Atma which contains all this. Everything is only in Atma. So you cannot perceive the size. So it is impossible to So if you can think of something as Atma, then it cannot be Atma. Because you are limiting it to something which is very small. So Atma is inconceivable. It is beyond imagination. It is beyond perception. If you understand this, then there is no need for sorrow. That is what Krishna tells him. So this is, yes, explained the nature of the Atma. He has just summed up. In this verse, Krishna has just summed up the nature of the Atma, which he has already explained each aspect of the Atma in detail. So again, this is the method of teaching. So first you give in a, like this